Hello and welcome to this episode of The Inner Estate with your host, Bridget Stuart. My guest today, I'm so thrilled, is Bill Crespo. And Bill, I just want to thank you for being a guest on my podcast. And I'm really excited about our topic today because it is so critical. And you and I have talked, it's critical for people in sales, but really, aren't we all selling all the time anyway? We're all salespeople, whether we know it or not. So even if you're in management, boy, what we're going to talk about today could rock your world. We are talking about the critical importance of actually enhancing and developing soft sales skills. And Bill, I know that you're passionate about this, and it expands beyond that simple title. But I'd love if you could share with everyone, what does that actually mean to you?
Well, first of all, thanks for letting me be on. I'm excited about the opportunity to talk about this because I think what's happened over the years is that we started losing these high-level skilled professors. And then you have a rising up of a sales guy who did well, which doesn't make sense. You take them out of sales, you put them into management. They lose the production of that person, and then they keep rising them up the ranks. And really, they didn't learn any more. They stopped, and they're passing that on, which means there's a stagnation of good, high-level, top-shelf selling skills, soft skills. And so that's what I think has happened. And I spent over 40 some years. I started selling at the age of 21, really officially selling entertainment to colleges and high schools and hotels in Washington, D.C. metro area, and started calling, right? So I realized shortly that not everybody liked me and not everybody liked my approach, So that's what got me. I said, I better learn. And then I got into real estate sales, which is a highly emotional, and if you do the disc, I'm basically a DC, right?
Okay.
And I have an I because I've been in the entertainment business for a long time. I did television, radio, commercials, movies, and all that kind of stuff. And obviously no one knows me, so I didn't really do really well there. So I ended up, my S, which is my emotional, is a 2.
Right.
So
okay.
I'm not good at drama and I'm not good at emotion, which means I had to get better at it. And then I had, 5 girls, which are all into drama, which made me have to understand that. So
I'm sure they enhanced your skill in that area.
Yeah, they definitely did. Bridget, that's a very good way of saying they beat the hell out of me over the years.
Yes.
But basically, I think that because of the introduction of this development of AI now, we're kind of leaning back thinking that this thing is going to help us. People still want that one-on-one relationship and an understanding that person gets me. Whether you're a coach, and if we get to know that person better than they know themselves, they now want to work with us as coaches and trainers.
That's right.
So that's what got me involved in all of this, and then studying it and hiring people outside the industry that are like incredible trainers. I've paid a lot of money for outside education to help me to get better at this. And to me, it's fascinating. The whole psychology of it is, to me, fascinating.
Well, I want to mention one brief thing and then go back to something you shared. So, interesting side note, you probably know this. Gary Keller is also a DC, which is called, the U formation in the disc. And it's correct me if I'm wrong, it is one of the most unique combinations out of the DISC. And it's a very powerful one. So,
yeah, well, I
awesome.
look at others that had it and I go, oh my gosh, first of all, I thought I had a handicap, right? So you think,
right.
I need a special parking pass at places. And that ended up being that I understood myself better. And then, started to understanding what I had to develop from that. And he probably has a high I also because he's a showman. He likes to play guitar. And
yes,
stage, of course.
Yes.
You see my instruments
I do.
Right there. And so
I do.
I like that. Now, and then we have to adapt to a variety of people in variety of ways and variety of situations.
Well, and that's one of the things that I thought about that you mentioned as you were sharing. When you first started out, 20 years old, you're working in DC, Washington area, and you were doing sales calls and you were showing up as you, right? You were showing up as like, hey, I am Bill Crespo and this is me and this is what I'm delivering to you. And you said, I realized quickly not everyone likes me or finds me engaging, right? So it sounds like from an early age, you realized, wait a minute, I need to increase my versatility so I can connect with more people. How important is it to you to have that versatility?
Well, now more than ever, I realize that as I matured and got into sales. I was in the earlier days of my 20s, and I got into emceeing, DJing, commercials. I modeled professionally for many, many years in Washington, D.C. And what's interesting is that you get rejected when you go to a cattle call for whether you're a model or a television person. You get rejected for
That's right.
your face.
Right.
That was I was going, what? And that was hard to adjust. And then finally understanding it from a business perspective, it was very, very important. And then as in sales, developing instant rapport with people helps to move this influence and authority further, and having those people see you as a premium, top shelf type of salesperson, consultant, whatever. If you're a doctor, your title gives you that instant credibility, but as a salesperson, you don't have that type of title.
Right.
So that's why you have to bring that out inside of your delivery of your services and as you speak to people.
Right. And in that communication, you also mentioned how there has been this transfer, particularly in sales, from learning skills and mastering your craft and becoming an amazing listener by understanding and knowing what you would say in any circumstance, right? That just really allows you to be that like mind-blowing listener. So the people you're talking to feel valued, heard, understood, and important. So the trainers that were training that, as you mentioned, have kind of dissipated. And one of the things that has filled the void is the rise of the influencers, right? And I am me, and I'm going to give this impression, and this image that I'm going to put out is going to attract people to me because they're going to want to have what I have, which is different than learning and mastering. It's still mastering a skill, but it's a different skill, and the focus is on the deliverer rather than the recipient. The issue with that is, are those people then, I feel like people are putting too much importance on themselves rather than being a blank canvas when they meet someone so they can prioritize the needs of the person they're meeting.
Yeah.
What's a way to get around that? Like what are your thoughts and feelings on that?
Well, now we're into impression management, right? So the AI, these influencers are now managing the impression they give, whether it be the number of impressions on likes and all that stuff. And then you have your video image. This thing, I remember that early days when I was doing commercial auditioning, I was so bad, Bridget, at acting that I couldn't even be a tree. I was terrible. I didn't understand this thing that's in front of me and how that had to be a person. So these kids and I say kids, and anybody who's in that profession has learned this one-on-one relationship with this thing. Now, if they have to meet someone in person, is it the same thing? This is why when we meet a celebrity all of a sudden in person, it's not the same guy or same woman I saw on TV.
That's right.
So now, but we're doing both. If you're in sales, you've met them on camera maybe, and now you got to back it up. If you can't back up your claim as what you're selling, and then drop this invisible guard that's typically there, and I talk a lot about it with clients when I'm teaching them high-level sales, is that there's this invisible wall between you and them, and what we're trying to do in the relationship is to bring this down so that we can have this one-on-one conversation. And we say that a conversation that's successful or a relationship in sales that's successful is hitting several things. It's hitting the heart, hand, and head.
Yes.
right? Head being the knowledge you have, your hand, what you are going to do for them, and then the heart, which is the empathy that you have for someone. When they sense all three of those, you now have probably gone further than most. And if you do that instantly, you definitely have gone further than most people in sales. When we know that the number one issue with salespeople internationally is the lack of empathy that they show with that prospect in front of them or doing business with them. Really
One of
crazy.
my first and most key mentors, she used to use the phrase, anyone you meet, you want them to know that you care about them and you want to be candid with them. So she
Right.
would talk about care and candor. I think that ties in with what you're discussing with the empathy. If someone is lacking in that area, do you have any suggestions on how they can improve that? Because a lot of people, Bill, I think a lot of people are saying that's something you're born with or not. And if you're not born with it, oh, well, you're just going to be, churn and burn forever. So I believe it is a skill that you can develop and enhance and claim. What would you recommend to someone that wants improvement in that connection and that feeling of empathy?
Yeah, I think, first of all, yes, you can improve on that. No doubt about it. You can work on it. But first, you've got to understand who you are. Typically, whether you're using DISC or any type of personality profiling, testing, there's an opposite personality style that you have the most difficulty with, right? So first, understanding you and be willing to pull back those layers to understand
Okay.
yourself. And if you don't have a test to do that, talk to your significant other and ask them. They'll tell you real quickly.
They'll tell you right away.
Right away what you are and why you're that way. So that's another way of doing it if you don't want to take the test. But I think you have to understand yourself. Once you understand yourself, because now that I knew that, okay, I'm a high D, I got to be careful because I could scare an amiable person. I've got to back it down. A amiable person wants to know about my family. They want
That's
to
right.
they want me to know about their family. If I don't pick that up in the initial conversation, whether how I hear it on the phone or as I perceive it with the verbal or nonverbal cues, I'm in trouble. Because I
Right.
would scare them and then they put up their defensive posture and then I don't have a sale or I'm not able to gather information. If you ever had any type of therapy, when I married my wife, she was a widow with 3 children, 2, 4, and 6, and I had 2. And we ended up having a blended family. And this is 28 years later. But what I'm saying is that these therapists know how to ask questions because they're evaluating me to see, is this the right kind of guy for these kids and blending this family? And what's fascinating is when I went to these meetings, I knew the therapist what he was doing because he's
Right.
evaluated me. So tell me more about that, Bill. I'm going, okay, he's digging down deep. So, but we need to know ourselves so that person feels comfortable. And if you understand the differences, like if I'm me and another driver, no problem, right? We're going to get to the
That's right.
point, not a
Yep.
lot of emotion. I don't care about your dog. You don't care about
That's
my
right.
dog. Let's get into
Yep.
business,
Yeah.
right? But now here's an expressive person who is now telling me their life story and showing me everything that she's made in her life on the wall and wants to tell me, and I have to relax and know that I have to listen and not look frustrated because another thing that we have to remember that this thing here has to reflect what's inside of us too. Because
That's
I can
right.
easily go, right. I mean, I can't wait to hear more about your stuff that you have on the wall. So, so I need to now have to go like this,
That's
you know,
right. Yes.
and listen and go, yeah, that sounds interesting. So you did all this yourself and your kids did that. And yeah, great. I have kids too. Really? Yeah. And so if we know the differences, you're going to develop influence and authority much quicker.
Yes.
And people feel, as you said, they can trust you in giving some valuable information to help this. Now, this could be, let me just tell you, everybody's in pain. Everybody's
Agreed.
in
Yes. Yes.
a company, a corporation, as I said before we got on the call today, a medical practice, a medical hospital, a franchise. Everybody has some level of pain when they're making a decision to do something else. If we can uncover that pain quickly in the conversation and identify it, where no one else has been able to do that quickly with someone, they're going to see you as the expert, or
That's
that
right.
this is a person I want to talk to.
And they're going to listen at a higher level, because when you express that you care for them in the way that they'll perceive it, they're going to put a higher value on everything you say after that. It doesn't entity, individual, CEO, brand new salesperson. If they feel like you care about them and you deliver that in a genuine manner that ties in with their personality type, they're going to listen to everything you say and actually attempt to implement, much more so than if someone thinks that, if they have not perceived that you care.
Yeah, I mean, go to the doctor's office and get a guy or woman who's a doctor who doesn't really seem like they care about your needs and just doing a checkoff list. I mean, you don't feel like sharing anything with
That's
them.
right.
And it could be critical information that will help to cure whatever ails you. But, they are professions. Now, here's one thing that will block you or me or anybody in really doing well in our profession is ego,
Yes.
right? If you got a big ego, you're not going to want to change the way you deliver your services or change the way you communicate, because you think you're the biggest and baddest thing since sliced bread. And so you're not going to change. And unfortunately, there's a lot of that out there in sales and in other professions where their ego is so big. And the person who taught me this
Yes.
years ago, EGO, right? Eliminating
That's right.
growth opportunities.
That's right. Yes. That is a great one.
Ego will stop you, and it can stop me, you, and anybody, because we think we're all that,
Yeah.
Well, if you want to find out who I am, call my wife. She will tell you that I'm not all that. So, but I do know that I have to change in situations, and it takes the willingness to want to change and want to learn how to get better at your job.
You mentioned soft skills. And when I think about soft skills and communication, I want to give an exact example. So if you are talking to a high D, if you just preface what you're saying or asking with certain things like, hey, Bill, I'm sure you're already aware of this. Can we discuss X, Y, and Z? If you're not aware of it, you're still glad that I perceive you as so knowledgeable that you would be. And it gives you that gracious way to say, you know what? I know a little bit about it. Could you share more? Right? So being gracious in that. However, if you're with that high D and you start off with, now, Bill, let me tell you all about X, Y, and Z, you're going to be like,
you're out the door.
Back up, right? You're not going to tell me anything. So that would be a soft skill, predominantly in sales, that anyone listening to this could look for, find, practice, and develop. It's delivering that message in the way someone is likely to receive it. Where do you think someone could go? What would you recommend if they really want to increase their versatility and start learning those soft sales skills?
I would start off with going somewhere to get a disc done of yourself. I mean, there's a whole bunch of, but disc, and again, and this is probably not good that I'm saying this, but there are some disc services that have a bank of data that doesn't give you the accuracy that you need to find out what you are. So, but you got, I use Dr. Abelson's out of Texas, Texas, and if anybody's interested, I have I can get you that number for him. But
great,
I understand. Once you get that going, you're going to get a complete array of information about yourself and how you have challenges with certain types of personality and what to say. That's the beginning of the process.
Okay.
Then you're going to test it out and start to use and start to change. You can't, as I said, you can't be you all the time, because you doesn't work all the time.
That's right.
You doesn't work with two other personalities. Maybe two works well, maybe three, but there's one for sure that you don't get along with, and it's hard to close. Hopefully you're not married to that person or have a significant other, because you're in big trouble.
I think possibly I was, and that's why I'm single. So there we go.
There you go. And the truth
what I wanted to share, and some of my clients are currently doing this. because they wanted to increase their versatility. They felt as if they were falling into I'm just going to call it the influencer trap, where it was like all them, and then they were this image, and then they were showing up as that image and not taking the time to connect. So what they've done is they've stepped back. They're actually using AI. So if they have an idea of the personality type of the people they'll be meeting, they're actually asking their AI, I'll be meeting with a high D and a high C. Can you give me some questions in a manner of speaking with them that should create engagement? And then you just give a little more specifics about what your meeting will be about. And they're just doing that to warm themselves up and get their focus on being present for them rather than showing up as themselves. Yeah. So that would be another technique people could use.
But here's what I agree. The danger is that we're back to AI thinking they're going to solve our problems when you haven't really learned about yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because what's going to happen, you're going to ask these questions, you will still default to your old personality style because it's the most convenient. Remember, you're selling yourself too, that you're the best thing since sliced bread in your head and my way is good, but I've learned this in AI, so I'm going to ask these questions. So that's a slight danger, but it's a great start. If you do both and that,
agreed. Perfect. Yeah, it's not a standalone, but it's something you can do if you want to improve in that area and you just want something you can start with today.
Yeah. I mean, it's just this whole thing of AI. What's another thing I was going to say about the AI process? LinkedIn, I don't know if you know this, that the higher level of LinkedIn, I forgot the next step up where you have to pay for that premium LinkedIn program, has a disc mechanism in it where you can actually go in and it will tell you based on the post that this particular, let's say, CEO was doing, it will let you know what they perceive the personality style to be, so that when you write back to them to try to get them into a meeting or to talk to you, it automatically will write in the language that person is perceived to be based on this algorithm and AI system that's inside of the LinkedIn system.
I had no idea they were doing that. You actually got me more excited about LinkedIn than I've been in quite a while.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going to check that out.
Yeah, not too many people know that, and I've seen it, and it's pretty fascinating. So now when you're posting it, you're posting into the DC type of language that he wants. You're not doing
That's right.
warm and fuzzy stuff, or if it's a warm and fuzzy and you're not, you're typing back to them in their way of understanding communication. So it's
that's a great development. I'm definitely going to check that out.
And that's been around, Bridget. I learned about this maybe 3 years ago. It's been around that long, and it's probably better now because everything is improved from the AI standpoint. But it just now back to what you just said. You better show up when you meet them face to face with the same person that knows how to deal with this stuff. Now you go in there now, you could really mess up the relationship. Hey, you started off with a good back and forth. Now you go meet them face to face, and you don't understand how to communicate.
That's right.
Without a net.
That is it. Yeah, that would be a definite. That's where. And I'm glad you said that. I know that you and I, when you started when you were 20, I started very young, we practiced it intensely and consistently. And I just think that not as many people, correct me if you disagree, not as many people practice, drill repetitively, real situations, role situations. Like, I don't feel like people practice as much as we used to, even 12 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, that's when I started to see a shift. And I've been in my industry 27 years this year. So that's when I saw a shift where people just started to downplay the importance of really learning the craft. What do you think about practicing drills, experimenting? Like, how critical do you believe that is?
Well, we don't want to hurt people's feelings anymore. So we're back to the awarding everybody for just living. So what the problem is that like when I'm no one wants to be critical.
Right.
And we need critique so that we learn. And so everything started to change when we started, having no one critique in a way that's going to help someone.
That's
So
right.
I had to get out of listening to everybody. That's really good, Bill. So I said, I can't deal with that. I want to get better. I don't want to be really good. I want to be better, but I need someone to tell me what I got to change. So that's when I got out of the world of real estate coaching and hired probably one of the top guys internationally. And then I felt like Bridget, I felt like a little peon in
Right.
front of
Right.
the coaches. I was sitting in this chair going like this, going, I don't know what they know. And I felt, so that
Right.
helped me to grow. Same thing with, you've got to get uncomfortable and we've got to critique with respect, no doubt about it. You don't want to cut someone down, but I need to know what I've got to do to get better. And it's a challenge on how to deliver critique to people without hurting their feelings, and it's breaking their spirit. And then the other one
Right.
is making sure that me, as a coach, will accept the challenges of the change that I have to make to get better. And so I think you're absolutely right. Things have changed dramatically, and everybody, you're just really good.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Yeah.
That was
And it's
great.
funny, like constructive criticism sharpens the knife. That's what sharpens the knife. And I also see this in leadership. So leadership, leaders think they buy into excuses and stories, and rather than challenging someone to get out of their own way. And what I shared with them is, rather than giving them constructive criticism so they can sharpen their skills and get better and achieve, you're actually just loving them into failure and allowing them to flounder in your presence under your guidance. Do you really want to be responsible for their financial distress, stress in relationships, anxiety, and not being successful? So you're so right. The constructive criticism, boy, it's a gift. But the more you can deliver that, you're actually helping people. You're not hurting them.
That's why I say I'm probably the closest thing to an athletic coach in business, because I don't have a problem doing that. My problem was how to do it better and not hurt someone's feelings. That
Right.
was my biggest challenge, because that's my kids. Dad has no problem saying, and my wife would say, okay, you're breaking their spirit. I said, okay. And I had to learn how to change the delivery on that, because I don't want to do that. It was just the way I was so used to dealing with wanting to help someone change. So, but when I start training, and you know this, that I'm a firearms instructor also.
Mm-hmm.
And then I start realizing I was afraid, completely 100% afraid of guns. No doubt
Okay.
about it. My
Okay.
wife was the one that kept telling me. So I said, great, I'm in a fear. I got to get to that place where I'm scared so that I learn how to bypass that fear. And so we tend to stop at the wall, right? That's sort of the
We
runner
do.
wall.
Yes.
We hit it, you
Because we
fall
want to be
back.
comfortable.
Right. We
Yep.
got to go past that wall. And so I ended up training with some high level trainers, whether it be retired Navy SEALs, police department trainers, and things like that, and went from knowing nothing and afraid to being an instructor myself. But what's interesting is when someone says they're afraid to make a call, how about a person, a Navy SEAL or a sniper who's on the front line? They're shooting live ammo at you.
Right.
They're not doing that when you're making a call. They're not doing that when you're knocking on the door. That's not happening to you, and you're still acting as if they're shooting live ammo. I learned that because if I train someone incorrectly in this business of firearms, they could lose their life.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I feel a sense of responsibility. So now I carry that into my coaching, and I go, if I don't help them and make those comments, they're not going to help their family. They're not going
That's
to achieve
right.
their goals. So I am hurting them in a different way. They're not going to die, but they're not. It's like that, and I take that as a real responsibility, knowing what I went through mentally. Going, I'm deathly afraid. I didn't grow up with guns. I never went hunting in my life. To the point now that I got all kinds of stuff, and I learned with some of the best of the best, and went to these facilities where they only allow the best of the best to be there to train, and was brought into this community. of people. And so I'm thinking, gosh, one of the things that I changed because of that is that I don't believe in goals anymore. Watch this.
Okay.
I don't believe in goals.
Okay. Tell me.
And then the question is why? So
Why?
why? Because you're going to hit a target. You hit targets, right? When you learn firearms, you have a target that you have to hit.
That's right.
Right? A goal keeps changing, moving, and I'm okay if I don't get there. I have a backup goal if I don't get there. But in a situation when your life is threatened, you have a target that you have to hit. So
that's right.
with my clients now, I tell them, I'm not into goals. Don't even talk to me about goals. What is the target you want to hit? Because we're going to hit it.
And we're going to hit it. We're going to hit it. Yep.
That's just me. And that's what I learned by training with these guys, because if you're defending yourself, you have center mass, then you got to hit it. I know some of you out there may not be into guns or whatever, but the philosophy of hitting a target, whether you're shooting a bow and arrow or whatever, you're going to hit a target. You could miss
I have a private coach. His name is Dylan, and he has used similar language with me. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
I love it.
So that, if you come to the Scottsdale area, we'll have to go to the range, because
I would love it.
We have a great one.
All day long. Actually, when I'm going out of town the end of this month, or no, when we're going, I don't know we're going to be doing something in October along those lines.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say that I love that concept of the target, and you're going to hit that target. I'm going to really reflect on that and incorporate more of that into my conversations.
Because think of how precise now we have to be in everything has to be laser in. And funny that you have lasers and things on weapons and things like that so that you hit the target. So how are we thinking? Are we lasering in? So this whole thing of, I could settle for this other thing, then let's make that the target and let's hit that target, or let's move this to another number so we hit the target. Let's not think that we're going to miss the target, because it's not going to achieve whatever you want to achieve.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I have noticed a lot of my clients are not feeling the same connection, the same strong driving connection to an annual goal as they used to. And there used to be a few outliers where they're like, hey, I really like a quarterly, I go quarter to quarter, or I like a rolling 3 months, but they were not the majority. And in the last couple of months, I realized there is a shift occurring. It could be who I'm attracting, but there's a shift occurring where people are getting more excited, intentional, intense, and fired up and into action about still big goals, but a shorter time frame. Have you noticed that as well?
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, it's so funny because my coach he works in 6-week increments and gave us because it's easier to track. And he gave us this, which is basically a 6-week tracker just for 6 weeks.
I love it.
Right?
I love it.
So I like that because it helps for me to really focus on what I got to do today to make that happen in 6 weeks. Now, could you not hit the target? Yes, but how much more fine-tuned do you have to tweak it, right? So interesting that a sniper really has 2 people helping them, almost like a coach, right? So a sniper has a person who has a scope watching it. The sniper has the rifle. The coach, or the guy who has the binoculars that can see very, very far, is judging how to adjust your rifle based on a couple of interesting things, just like us as coaches. But we're looking at market data. We're looking at behavior patterns. What they look at to adjust a sniper's target is the wind on the field of grass.
Wow. Okay.
And how that moves to adjust what happens, the rotation of the earth, the humidity in the air. I mean, it's pretty much a science. Right. So, and I'm going, well, that's like a coach, like what we do. See, we have the luxury to see things in a different way to help adjust that person. And I think 6 weeks or a short amount of time gives us the ability to fine tune, and all those elements now are involved in making sure that we actually hit that target. So when I started training, my whole philosophy has changed over the last 7-8 years since I've been training. and really started affecting my training and coaching for salespeople and sales leaders around the country based on what I just learned. I was fearful of something. So I went through a whole maturation myself personally and,
Right.
and then became good and became an instructor. And I went, wow, what can I do for someone? Well, how can I help change them and get them from a fearful situation and hit the target? So yeah, 6 weeks, a shorter time frame to me is all part of the game.
I agree. And I had shifted over to 12 weeks. I have a few clients like 10. You know what I love about it? It makes it easier to pivot. If something is underperforming or something is not hitting the target, it just is more nimble.
Yeah,
It's
you
more
could adjust
nimble.
faster.
You adjust faster. So I love that thought.
Yeah, perfect.
So real quick, because I'm sure there's people dying to know, give me a little bit more about you. So I know that you're a trainer, you are a speaker, you are a coach, and I'll say consultant as well, right?
Yep.
Very much into social media, just anything else. What else could you share with people? And if someone did want to reach out to you, of course, I'll have all of your contact information in the description, but just also share your favorite way for people to reach out to you.
Yeah. So they can always reach me at bc at path, PATH, the number 2 pro.net. So I think, I wanted to specialize in something. And so I didn't want to be this guy that did all kinds of different coaching things. So I really focus on 3 things, right? For individual agents, individual salespeople, sales leaders, or people managing sales teams, right?
Yes.
So it's going to be lead generation, lead conversion, and scaling. So involved in those 3 areas, there's a lot. So under lead generation is, what to say, how to say it. In lead conversion, it's having a sales system of knowing how to go through a process from start to finish. And I talk about rapport, pain, money, decision, presentation, close, post-close. I have a complete process. And then when we talk about scaling as a team is how to train up your sales team, how to leverage out as a owner of a company and having a manager of a sales organization. And, typically we're getting anywhere from 30 to 50% increase in productivity out of the sales team.
That's
so
great.
I focus on that. And involved with that is personality styles. Involved with that is learning how to communicate at a higher level. All of it around being a premium, high-ticket sales organization. In a hospital, when I spoke at a major hospital here in my marketplace, a children's hospital, it was all about high-level customer service from the doctor to the nurse to the nurse to the admin staff to the admin staff to the patient coming in with a child who's got fever. So I've coached hospitals, Ethan Allen Furniture, beauty salons, you name it, anything that has to do with productivity or sales and real estate for the last, for many, many, many years. So that's what I do. And I enjoy it. And I want to be really good at it. And as long as I've been doing it, I still want to learn and get really good amongst all the other things that I do to keep myself busy and in shape and lasting longer on this earth for a while.
Yes. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's something that you and I share is that desire that we are going to continue to grow. So Bill, when you shared about joining that next level coach that was just going to blow your skills up and you felt like a peon, in my mind, I was like, yes, I love that feeling. I challenge myself to put myself in a situation where I feel like a freshman. And I do that at least once a year because I feel like that as you and I get, experienced in our careers, you've got to keep that freshness, challenging yourself to keep that ego in line. Otherwise, it's very possible it can get out of control, even with the skills that we have. So I so appreciate you sharing that. And I hope everyone is listening to that. If anyone out there is feeling a little stagnant or in a rut or that they're on autopilot, figure out a way to put yourself in a room where you will be completely uncomfortable and probably one of the least skilled people in that room and make that happen, because the way it energizes your entire brain and physiology cannot be matched anywhere else.
No, it's so,
So,
it's so cool. It's actually, when you think about it, you go, and I'm sure that people go, why would you guys want to do that? Because it's a weird feeling that you're learning. You're in a room to learn. You are now experiencing a growth when you're not the biggest and the baddest person in that room, and being open to criticism. That's important. And training with these guys, they I got let's just say abused a little bit, but in a good way. Beat up, yep, in a good way. It was not just firearms; it was physical stuff.
Bill, exactly right. If you have that feeling where you're uncomfortable, or say slightly sweaty palms, or you actually feel a little bit of nervousness, because frankly, those of us that have been in our careers for a long time, we feel pretty confident in nearly every scenario. So we get away from having that feeling. And when you allow that back into your life, that's where growth occurs. So I couldn't agree with you more. Well, I want to thank you for being my guest today. I feel like this is such a critical issue that's impacting, like you said, it's international. It's impacting sales. It's impacting client satisfaction and the whole experience, regardless of what you're selling. It's even impacting relationships and just society in general. It's the lack of empathy, the disconnect, and moving away from those soft skills that prioritize the client over the agent. And I don't mean realtor, but just the salesperson or the manager or leader. Such an issue. Thank you so much. Do you have any final thoughts to share?
No,
Just talk to someone out there that's like, man, I feel like they're talking to me, where they follow me around with a camera, and I want to improve and I want to take action today. What would you say to that person?
I think, first of all, congratulations if that happened. I think that's a great thing. I really would like to challenge anybody who's over 50. Those are the people who are you thinking you're going to lose your job for younger people? Well, that will happen if you do not want to continue to learn and grow and do the stuff that we did when we were in our 20s. We've got to do it back in the 50s and the 60s, because there's still longer life. You're not, until they lay you down, you still got a lot of life left. So
That's right.
I would go after this opportunity of learning and get yourself uncomfortable. You could go on the YouTube channel. I'm on YouTube at the Lead Generation Academy. You could join my Facebook group called the Pro Sales Mastery Network. But, I'm constantly excited about sharing this information because I know it's helped me. Are you going to have ups and downs? Yep. And you're going to feel all the emotions that we all feel when we're going through changes in our life, but especially for people that are over 50, it's not over yet, but you've got to work on it.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. By coincidence, Bill and I are both coaches at Coaching Nexus. And if you have any interest in having a private one-on-one or learning more about what we do, please reach out. There's a QR code that you can scan and just get a free, no obligation consultation. And Bill, thank you again. I think this is such a critical message to get out there. Thank you all for coming to the Inner Estate. Stay tuned for the next episode.